Good day, folks. Coach Johnson here. This is Friday Fitness Fact. I believe it's episode 4. Now, today's actually Thursday, but tomorrow is Friday, and I'll be driving from San Diego up to Van Nuys and back and picking up some supplies for the school. So I don't think I'll have time to do the video tomorrow, so I'm doing it today. Lucky you. Also, don't forget, I have this on my YouTube channel as well, Coach Daryl Johnson. So if you missed the Facebook or if you don't have Facebook, whatever, it's up there. Anyway, today's Friday Fitness Fact is going to be talking about heart rates. And I was thinking about this the other day because we have software in our kickboxing academy where if you have the heart monitor on, we have a big TV. It broadcasts the heart rate you're on, what level you're at, and that kind of makes class really fun, kind of competitive. It really gives me as a trainer good metrics and data to work with how our class programming is going. Because as the students get their workouts mailed to them via email, I get a kind of a summary of all the workouts that were in that class mailed to our academy website or our academy email. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to talk about today. And this is what we're going to talk about: fat burning. And this is again, I've been in this business a very long time, and I've done things differently over the years. Things that I would have advocated 15, 20 years ago, I found out are completely baloney or mostly baloney now. Back in the old days, and when I say old days, I'm talking about 90s, 80s. Trainers often would prescribe you a target heart rate for fat burning. And the thought process was this. They found out, scientists found out that in a certain level of heart rate intensity, the majority of the calories that you are burning, for lack of a better term, are coming from the conversion of body fat through the Krebs cycle. So it sounds like the perfect place to be. Well, there's a couple problems with that. One is, at that level, which is a relatively low intensity for what most people are thinking of exercise, is the total caloric expenditure isn't very high because it's such a low intensity. The second problem, I think, which is the more important thing to realize, is the intensity triggered by the fat burning cycle is not enough to stimulate a growth or a elevation of metabolism past the workout, or called post-exercise oxygen consumption. That is a factor that once you finish the workout, your body has an elevated state of intensity. You burn more calories after the exercise. Resistance training has the same kind of result. It is spurred by high intensity. So let's say you do 35 minutes of the fat burning zone, or where I would consider a low intensity workout, and maybe in that 30 minutes you burn, let's say you burn 200 calories, which is not atypical for a typical adult that's not large or tiny. So out of those 200 calories, let's say 70% come from body fat. That's 140 calories of body fat burned. But then remember, once you stop doing the exercise, your metabolism goes back to its normal rate. Now let's take a high intensity training protocol. So let's say you do a 10 minute. Let's say 12. 12. I think 12 is a good number. 12 minutes of high intensity interval training. Things like a Tabata workout, or maybe you're doing some sprints, or just something where you're cycling the high intensity training. High intensity would be something more like maybe 85% of your target heart rate, or your heart rate, total heart rate. There's some other factors going in that. There's heart rate reserve. I'll get into that another time. Maybe I'll put some notes in the comments here to figure out your target heart rate. So in that 12 minutes of high intensity interval training, that same person, let's say they burn 150 calories. Like, oh, well, that's lame. That's less calories than the other person burned. Yeah, two things. First of all, it was only 12 minutes compared to 30. Secondly, the calories burned are calories burned. It's still an expenditure. It has to be recovered through nutrition. And I think most importantly is that you'll get a post-exercise oxygen consumption boost. So you might have burned 50 few calories in that workout, but throughout the course of the day, the elevation is going to get you that result back. Now, as a trainer, I don't particularly care where your calories come from, whether it's body fat conversion or whether it's from glycogen reserves from muscle cells. That's true. That's not true. If your energy conversion is coming from the breakdown of muscle tissue or catabolism, I do care about that. There's lots of reasons for that. So not only does high intensity interval training get you results, in my opinion, faster for most people, but you spend less time in the gym and you get a boost after the workout. So you keep your metabolism spiked up. Again, resistance training does much the same thing, because resistance training done properly is a high intensity modality. Anyway, so today's Friday Fitness Fact is that high intensity interval training or working at a higher level heart rate is going to be better for you to reach your fitness goals most of the time than your fat burning zone from the early 90s and late 80s. So again, but there are still trainers. I see this that are prescribing the fat burning zone, just meander around. Now, here's another caveat: if you are just starting to work out, if you're coming from a deconditioned state, I think that level of intensity might be great. But here's the thing: maybe that level of intensity for me is very low, but for someone who hasn't worked out in 3 years, it might be very high. It might actually trigger a high intensity interval training. So I recommend working with a knowledgeable trainer, whatever you're doing. Educate yourself. Here's the thing about training: there is almost no information that I possess or any other trainer possesses that isn't freely and readily available on the internet. The challenge is sifting through the good stuff and the junk stuff and figuring out what's actually legit and what's going to be bumpkiss. So that is what we are specializing in as trainers, is guiding you with the proper information and coaching and motivating you and all that kind of stuff. So I hope this has been useful for you. So Coach Johnson's Friday Fitness Fact: get rid of the fat burning zone, embrace the intensity most of the time. I'll talk to you soon.